guys, like, you doing good? Give them the lowdown. Some of them don't know where to go eat, you know, like there's just things like that it's just overwhelming. There's so much information. You guys had Miss Lennon for your first class. It's just like information dump, and you leave and you're just like, oh my gosh. It's just information overload. So if you can do anything to kind of like help them get through the first couple weeks, I'm sure they would appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, hopefully you guys all read on my announcement that we are primarily going to be operating through this class for all of clinic. So I'm in charge of clinic for you guys now. So just like Miss Lee was before, that is now I am the new Miss Lee. So you will, if you have any clinic problems, you will come and talk to me. If you have any clinic issues, we will address them in this class. And in general, all of your announcements, all of your assignments, all of your paperwork, handout, whatever, it will be on the Canvas course for 451. I have found it to be very confusing to skip between 451 and 475 because you're just like, I don't know where the documentation is. So 475 is going to pretty much be your grade for clinic. You're going to see that posted on the Canvas course for 475. And then you guys have to do those end of course evaluation forms. When those come out, you'll be able to do it on 475 for clinic. Yes?
So do we not have 475?
You do have access to 475.
Or is it 476? That's the only one I see is the older one, the one that we had last quarter.
So you should have access to 475. You don't? Okay, let me talk to Barbara about it because you guys definitely should. 476 is going to be next quarter. So, and then 477 is spring quarter. So we're 475 this quarter.
Okay.
I will double check. There's a high likelihood that I may not have published it, which would be something that I would do. So I will double check it. Like if I give you guys a break, I'll confirm, but you should all have access to 475. Either way, it's not a big deal in the sense that there's really not going to be much documentation posted on there. So you should be good with just access to 451. Okay? So we're going to get going. I'm going to go through, I just have a little introduction PowerPoint. We're not going through anything too major, okay? We are going to do a quiz today, but what I'm going to do is pass the quiz out now, okay? So you're just going to turn the quiz in at the end. Just go ahead and take one and pass it around. So you're just going to go ahead and turn that in to me, so kind of follow along and just kind of, you know, as we go through. If you see anything, you can go ahead and mark that down. I thought first off, because I know that I pretty much just know you guys from pre-clinic and from clinic, I thought I would give you a little bit of background on kind of who I am. First off, I know full well where you are because I was in your shoes not that long ago. I graduated in 13. And I included a little photo. That's me and Miss Lennon. So I've been through it just like you guys were. This was on one of the, we used to do Clinic with a Heart. We don't do that anymore, which you can be thankful for because we were all here at 5 o'clock in the morning to do it.
Wait, Clinic on what?
Clinic with a Heart. It was free clinic service. I believe it was on a Friday. We provided free clinic service to all of like the Inland Empire. They showed up and the line started at like 1 in the morning and we started doing care. Then they had a plummet in the number of people who showed up, and it was just kind of like what we were getting out of it. We were getting lots of like old people who just needed like perio maintenance. We were like, okay, this is awesome, but like we had people that were normal patients that were showing up just for free treatment. And we were like, but we're trying to help out the community. So anyway, they kind of shied away from it, and we haven't done it in the last 2 years. But anyway, that's what we were doing. So this picture is taken very early. I'm married. That's my husband. His name's Mitchell. We occasionally like to travel, but what? Oh yeah, he's a firefighter, so he's got the mustache to prove it. We like to travel around when we can, but we don't get to very much because he works in the fires in the summer, and I get time off, and then he gets time off in the winter, and that's when I work. So we normally can just take kind of like weekend trips. We have no children, but we do have fur babies. So this is one of our dogs. His name is Sammy, and He's so handsome, isn't he? And then we just got another little puppy, and his name is Ben.
My dog's
Yeah. So he's tiny. I know. If my husband ever comes out for lunch or anything, I'll have him bring him. We call him Benny Badger because he badgers everybody. He bites. He's a herder, so he bites at your heels and whatnot. He was 4 pounds when we got him, but he got a little bit bigger, so we were trying to pose him. So we put him in his little fire hat, but he's about 10 pounds now, so he's too big. So anyway, that's who I am. I love corgis. I love animals. If you have any dogs or anything, I love seeing everybody's dogs' pictures. I love your children too, of course. But dogs have a special place in my heart. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I live out in the desert. When I lived here, I lived in the dorms, so I feel all of your pain, those of you living in the dorms. I also was working. I worked out at the Palm Desert campus, so that's why Miss Z and I seem like we're little besties, and that's because we worked together. It was only me and her out there. So it was just like every clinic you got, like it sucked if you didn't like either of us, because that was like it. There was no rotation of faculty. It was me and her, and that was it. So that was pretty much what we did, and we ran a really tight ship over there. We had no computer services, no maintenance. We had no nothing. So we had to fix everything that went wrong. We did all of radiology. We did all of sterilization. We did it all. So because of that, we kind of got into like a good rhythm, which is why we work really well now. But anyway, so that's kind of my story. I'm from Canada. You can probably hear it. I got like a little accent going sometimes. If I say out for some reason, people think that it sounds Canadian. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it. So that's me in a nutshell. So we're going to get into 471 versus 475. So I'm kind of like a to-do list person. I like having things separated where it's like I just want to know what I have to do, and I'd like to kind of check it off. I think it's kind of nice because it focuses your attention. So for 451, I'm sorry, we're going to have what are called Perio of the Desert homework assignments. Does everyone know who Dr. Peter Warshawski is?
Nope.
Okay, so he's a doctor, thank you. He is a doctor, a periodontist, who is pretty popular in kind of Southern California. He does a lot of lecturing, he does a lot of CE courses, he puts a lot of money in. They're like nice CE courses when you go. They like have like a full buffet for you, and they give out like $100 gift cards. It's amazing.
Ooh.
If you can ever go to one of his, go to it, because you'll hopefully end up with some good stuff from it. He has an office in Palm Desert, and he puts out on I would say like a monthly, maybe bi-weekly basis, case studies from his own practice. So they're normally pretty advanced. We're talking like lots of bone loss, maybe faulty restorations, calculus that's residual and has resulted in really, deep pockets, things of that nature. And he kind of does like a before and after, and he describes the treatment that he kind of completed or his office completed. And what I do for you guys is I give you one of those kind of case studies, and then I have you briefly answer a template to kind of just see that you've kind of understood it. The purpose of this is not for you to sit there and spend an hour and a half analyzing the case. It is to make it so that you are more effective at quickly coming up with kind of an overview of the patient. So some of the questions may not be precisely, you might have to guess. Sometimes there is no patient history, and it'll say, what's the ASA? And you might have to just say, kind of looking at the patient, they said that the patient's 82. I would maybe guess an ASA 2, maybe a 3. So it's not necessarily an exact science. It's more so tell me what your thoughts are and give me a little bit of info to support it, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. So you guys are going to have one of those due each week. There's going to be 5 quizzes. One of them has just been passed out. So if you're done that, you're like down 4. We want you guys to start working on identifying a patient for your case presentation. That's going to happen spring quarter. That's going to be similar to what you did with Ms. Lee's class, where you had to come up with a patient, you had to do a full background and whatnot. It's going to be similar to that, a little bit more involved. We want to get some intraoral photos of the patient as well for this case, so it's going to be a little bit different. But we want you to definitely start looking, or I do, I don't know why I keep saying we. I want you to kind of start looking for a patient that you think would be interesting. So they've got a cool health history, or they've got really substantial treatment, or an interesting background, or maybe they have a physical disability that makes it a little bit difficult for you to adapt to, anything like that. I would like you to be able to work on it with a couple people. So in spring, we have 4 clinic sessions that are dedicated to this. They normally take about 20 to 30 minutes each. So because of that, we can't have each one of you doing your own. We will be here for days and days and days, and that's not necessary. So I want you to group up into like 2, 3, maybe 4, and do, hopefully each one of you over the next 3 quarters can work on that patient to some degree. So if you get a cool patient, let's say you end up with a cool patient and you're like, well, you know what, like AJ, he's in my group, I'm gonna have him come in and maybe he'll do the perio charting, or maybe he'll do 1 quad of SRP, or there'll be something. So it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone has to do an equal amount of work, but everyone should have like equal exposure to the patient, I would think. Does that kind of make sense? So it's not due. We're not talking, this isn't going to be due until the end of spring quarter, but just start looking for the patient now. And then we're going to have some reading that'll be assigned, so you'll obviously have to do that. I try to not make it too excessive. I try to just kind of make it, where it's relevant to what we're talking about. For clinic, so what you're going to have to do in clinic in order to pass 451 and 475, you're going to need to get an SRP patient, and you're going to need to pass the competency. Focal point last quarter was adult prophy. Focal point this quarter is an SRP patient. We will be discussing this. We have an entire lecture that's dedicated to qualification of an SRP patient. But basically what we're looking for is a relatively healthy person with pretty much all natural teeth that has 6 light and 6 moderate pieces of subcalculus. So we're looking for 12 pieces, okay? Preferably in the same quad. We don't want to start splitting quads or anything. It's more anesthesia. It's more of your time that's going to be taken. Okay, so start kind of looking for that. If you have a patient in mind already, great. If not, we need to start screening. Potentially, I'd like you to work up a patient for your first CBC. Your CBC is a mock board. You cannot pass your CBC until, or I should say, I'm sorry, you cannot take your CBC until you pass your SRP competency. So the SRP competency takes place mid-November. So the first CBC date is not available until the end of November, because obviously if you can't take it before you pass the SRP comp. Yes.
So if we bring in a patient who's like all 4 quads,
Yes.
CBC eligible, hypothetically, we can't start until we do the SRP.
Correct. And the reason for that is if you can't do an easy SRP, you're really not going to be able to do a hard SRP. And we don't want quads getting wasted of hard board quality calculus for someone who is not at the skill level to do that.
Okay.
So you've got to pass your SRP before we will allow you to go forward with the CBC. Yes.
And then, so you can't use the same patient?
You can use the same patient. So if a patient comes in, they have 4 quads, you're like upper right qualifies for SRP, you do it, you pass it, you give a quad to your friend does the upper left, it qualifies, they pass, now you've both got a CBC patient. One of you can do the lower right, one of you can do the lower left. Yes? So we have another lecture this quarter that's going to be all about CBCs, getting you prepared for it. So I'm just giving you more like a game plan of like what you want to be focusing on and how you want to kind of start thinking about your patients that you're seeing on clinic. But we will get into the specifics of the CBC. I think it's in 3 lectures, in 3 weeks. So we'll go through and talk about that, but you're looking for 13 pieces of moderate to heavy subcalculus. Yep, yes,
So I have a question. You said we have to do SRP before we do the CBC.
yes,
So it's the SRP and the 2 eligibilities before the CBC?
yes. So all of that needs to be done before you can move forward with the SRP comp. So your eligibility should be completed before the SRP comp. Then once the SRP comp is completed, then you go into the CBC. The concept is it keeps getting harder. So it's like if you can't do an eligibility, you're not going to pass the SRP comp. If you can't pass the SRP comp, you're not going to pass the CBC comp. So there's no point in you skipping ahead and taking it. If you can't pass the easier exam, then we need to work on that, increase your skill level so you can pass it, so you're more likely to pass the more challenging exams.
How hard is it to find these patients?
It's challenging. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard. It's hard. So that's why it's like you gotta start now. Like you have to start looking, screening, bringing people in, and we're gonna talk about that a little bit in a little bit. But we gotta start bringing in patients and looking for them and getting it lined up now.
So it could, some people might even end up till spring to take their mock board.
Yeah, we don't want it, but potentially, yes.
Okay, so if I do an eligibility on one quad for one person, can I do the other eligibility on the other quad?
No, so an eligibility, you cannot do more than one eligibility on the same person. You cannot do more than one CBC on the same person.
Why?
They want you to have, and that's just as a faculty agreement as far as making sure that when we go through accreditation, you have experience on different patients. So if that happens, you need to partner up with somebody else who has another patient, like an eligibility patient or a CBC, and you switch. You say, I'll give you a quad if you give me a quad. And then you guys switch, and then you've each got a patient, but you get 2 exams kind of taken care of. Doing it.
And if you, so let's say you don't pass the eligibility, how soon can you bring them in again?
For the eligibility?
Yeah,
So if you take an eligibility and you fail, you can retake it on that same patient.
that day?
Generally, no, because they're anesthetized. It kind of depends on where you anesthetize them. If it's on the lower right and you're going to do the upper right, it's like, okay, bring them back in the afternoon. We can do it then. But if it's the lower right and they only have the lower left done, most faculty are going to say, no, you have to bring them the next day.
So I'm not doing, so I'm doing eligibility, I'm not doing the full now.
No, when you do an eligibility, you are only scaling those 10 clicks that you've identified. That's it. You're not even scaling the rest of the teeth. It's whatever clicks are there, that's what you're scaling. Yes.
So could I potentially get an eligibility patient, use them for my SRP comp,
Yep.
and use them for my
CBC.
CBC?
Yes.
Okay.
Same.
And another question, a CBC, is that a mock board?
Yes. A CBC is a clinical board competency or a mock board.
Okay. So
Same word, it's just used interchangeably.
So the only difference really is the number of clicks in each one.
Absolutely.
SRP, oh, that's-
Well, like an SRP comp is light to moderate. A CBC is moderate to heavy.
And what's
So-
the eligibility?
Eligibility is moderate. So it's all just kind of different, yes. 2. You must pass 2 and the pass is 75%.
And that has to be 2 separate people.
Correct, 2 separate people. So if you fail, you can retake it on the same patient, but you cannot pass more than once on the same patient. Yes.
So for, like, to get our first CBC, we need the eligibility, the SRP CBC. For the second CBC, do we still need to do an eligibility SRP CBC?
No. So you need to do your eligibilities,
Uh-huh.
then you have your SRP, then you have your 2 CDC exams. So if you're just lucky that you get a patient that has 4 quads, that's awesome. Because potentially, depending on how you were to play it out, you could do an eligibility, an SRP comp, a CBC, and you could save a quad for boards. I mean, if it worked out that way. However, it normally doesn't because we are so desperate for quads that you end up sharing with your classmates because we're not going to hold on to, like one patient specifically in October and keep them all the way and not provide treatment until June. Normally, we don't do that. Yes.
So it's one eligibility, one SRP.
There's more than that?
So the 2 eligibilities, it was 2 eligibilities. Did Miss Lee change anything?
We don't know.
Okay, so as of right now, you have 2 eligibilities. You have an SRP 1, and the SRP is just like the adult prophy. It's on an assigned day. You all show up. You all take the exam on the same day. It's spread over 3 days. You sign up for one of those 3 days. You take it. You're done. You move on with life. The CBCs are assigned days as well, but there's like 5 to 6 of them each quarter. So you'll kind of decide which one you want to go to, you know.
One
And, well, 2 CBCs to graduate, yes,
one this quarter.
preferably. You will not be docked if you don't have one this quarter, but I highly encourage you to get it done this quarter. It will put you way ahead. What I like you guys to do is to do your first CBC this quarter, your second CBC next quarter, and get your board patient spring quarter. A lot of you end up, not you, but a lot of students end up trying to do both CBCs in May, and then they have to find a board patient. And it is so stressful. You are trying to graduate, you're trying to do all this stuff, and you have all these requirements. Miss Marshall will not allow you to take a board exam unless you pass both CBCs. So it backs everything up. It gets very, very stressful. So I really encourage you, if you can, avoid that stress. It is only September right now. We are practically talking a year away, but this year is going to fly by. So anything you can do now, any requirements you can do now, get them taken out of the way with. You will be so much happier in the long run. Yes.
So basically the CBCs, SRP specific days, eligibility can be
Correct. Correct. Yes.
So I don't know a lot of people around here in Valita, so maybe I might have to take a business card or like.
Yes, and we're going to talk about screening. We're going to get into that. So let's actually move down. You guys need to complete all your competencies for fall quarter. If you have not completed your competencies for summer quarter, you must complete them this quarter, or else you will additionally get docked grade-wise again. It just keeps following you. So you've got to get summer quarter down, and then, you know, obviously move into fall. All of you guys should be able to get your fall competencies done. If you are not getting a competency every time you're in clinic, you're probably doing something wrong. There's always some sort of opportunity, for the most part, that you can do to start working on getting your competencies knocked down. Now, obviously, if you're like, well, I've done, you know, like 80% of my anesthesia, like, okay, maybe not. But for those of you who are still kind of running behind, or you're barely keeping up, you should be working on getting several CBCs done, or sorry, several competencies done each clinic session, okay? We're also going to move into deciding, we're going to do that this quarter, whether you're going to take REB, credits, or NERB. It depends on where you're moving. If you are staying local in California, you will take either REB or credits. If you are moving to the East Coast, you will take NERB. If you are going to Washington, you will take REB. There's a couple states that are specific. Generally, they're all becoming accepted in most places. But if there is somewhere like where you are just like, as soon as I leave here, like, or I'm done with this program, I'm bouncing, then we need to make sure that whichever state you're moving to, your board is going to cover. Yes.
Where can we find that out?
So I'm going to go ahead and present that information to you as well. So we'll get that taken care of. But generally, our students, we have about 85% take REB and about 15% take credits. Credits is normally earlier. The downside to this is you better be done with your requirements earlier, because if you're not, you will sacrifice the entire cost of the board. So if you do not have both your CBCs done and you do not have all your clinical competencies done, Ms. Marshall will not sign you off to go and take your board, which means you will potentially have to sacrifice your registration fee for the board. REB is normally mid to end of June. Credits can be as early as late May. So you can actually be taking it while you're still in school here. Some people like that. Other people are like, I would rather like get done. Some people don't have a board patient by then. You know, that's the thing you have to think about. If you've got a board patient kind of lined up, you know that it's like, okay, I have someone in mind. Credits is an option for you. If you are like, I'm not from here, I don't have any resources to pull from, you might be better off taking Rev, and that way you've got the very last few days at this campus to get a patient worked up if at the very bitter end you still don't have someone. Yes.
On clinic, a lot of us have been getting perio maintenance patients.
Yes.
Are we gonna still be getting a
Yes.
lot of? So how are we gonna attempt competencies and we're
Yes, so we're going to talk about that, which is the next thing, which is that you're going to be screening patients. Hang on, just really quick. What were you going to say?
Me?
Yes.
What are the lists of all the competencies that
So your competency list that you guys have, the full one that you should be checking off, that's going to show you fall quarter. So anything under the fall column, that's what you're going to have to complete this quarter. And anything that is summer or spring, that's all got to be completed too. Yes.
Question regarding the injection. So I know that fall you have to pass 2 pumps about each injection. So is there any way that you do injection on a main clinic, the dental student, they always have a patient that needs injection. And then we add that patient to our family and then write a note about it and the dentist watch us and then approve that note. Is it possible?
So the dentists do not watch you do anesthesia.
No?
It is hygiene faculty and Dr. Boyko. That's it.
But
Is he taken off? Or?
Moretta, I believe, has been taken off. So at this point, I believe it is just hygiene faculty and Dr. Boyko.
There are opportunities to do that, but if we have to borrow someone and then...
Yes, and that's what you have to do. You just have to talk to your faculty. If there's a slow day on clinic when faculty are kind of sitting around or whatever, those are key times to go in and try and get done with some of that anesthesia. So, screening patients. You are all going to be required this quarter to screen 3 patients. I have the screening forms right here. I'm going to go ahead and pass them out. You guys can do them on paper. It is also available. Can you take one and pass it down?
Yes.
It's also available on Canvas for you guys to go through. Your patients do not have to qualify for anything, but you are responsible for bringing in 3 patients to potentially bring in as new patients that you're going to screen. If they get worked up and, if it's a cousin that you have and you want to bring them in, that can count as your screening patient. Let's say that you bring them in and they decide, you know what, they only qualify for a prophy. That's completely fine. They still count as being one of your screening patients. But what you guys need to do is on this form that you're going to receive, it's going to show that you guys need to include the patient chart number. Every patient, even if you just do a quick 5-minute screening, they have to have a chart created. So every patient should have a chart number. Okay? That information needs to be filled out, and then you need to let me know, what was the result of it. Did you get a CBC out of it? Did you get an SRP comp out of it? Did you get, it's just a prophy? What was the result of it? Okay, yes.
if you brought somebody and you only did FMX on them, and you didn't do any coffee tests or anything, can you?
So if it's just something that it's like you ended up just doing an FMX or something, that doesn't count. It's got to be a patient that is not a patient of record, a new patient that is brought in, and you actually conduct a screening to see if they qualify for one of the exams. Okay, so that's what we're kind of looking at. And then you need to administer 1 site of Arrestin. Credit, again, will be given in 451. I will go ahead. We have an Arrestin lecture that we're going to be going through. You guys will bring your Typodons in, and we'll practice placing expired Arrestin into your Typodon. And then there is a form upstairs. It is with all of your other competency forms that needs to be filled out and submitted as an Arrestin competency. Okay, so you'll have to do 1 of those each quarter. Yes.
Can we screen our littles?
No, because they're already a patient of record. You can screen them. If you want to screen them, you can, because some of them will qualify. Generally what happens, though, is they end up going up and doing a partner prophy, and then the faculty sit down and we're like, okay, it's a prophy, or okay, no, it's SRP, and then we push them kind of off. We kind of tell them, talk to your big and see if they need to do an SRP or something. That's normally how you get them. So you don't really need to screen them because the faculty already kind of screen them for you for that partner prophy, which you guys probably remember in Miss Lemon's class. Okay, so for 451, we're going to just go into a little bit more detail on each of these. So with Perio of the Desert, you guys again have a weekly homework assignment. The template, the answer template is going to be available on Canvas. There is a different case each week. There is one template for all cases. So each case doesn't come with its own set of questions. It's a standard set of 10 questions that you will answer for each one of those cases. You will submit that via Canvas. If you want to work ahead this weekend and get them all done, that's cool. Everything in my class is available for you to fill out, read, complete now. So if you're someone who is like, I want to get this done with, be my guest. You can go ahead and do that. So that's kind of just the way that it's going to work. Again, this is intended to increase your speed at treatment planning. So it's like, if you get a limited amount of information, you can still come up with an idea of what needs to be done. Sometimes you're guessing, sometimes you're using a rationale, but if we see that there's gingival grafting for this patient that is being conducted, and then you say that, oh, the patient probably just needs a prophy, it's like, that doesn't make sense. You know, why is there gingival grafting being taken place if the patient is preventing periodontal disease? Obviously something is not matching up there. So what we're looking at, or I am looking at, is do you get like the big concept here? That's kind of the purpose of this, is to hone in your skills at taking a small amount of information and being able to actually produce something from it. You're going to submit them via Canvas. I'll get them graded, and then you'll see your grade on Canvas. I try to give comments as much as I can. I'm a comment person. So take a look next to your grade. I oftentimes leave a comment underneath your grade. Yes? Are we out of them? Okay. You guys come in after class. I'll have Barbara print. Is there 41 students in your class?
Yeah, 38.
That's weird. I printed 41, unless Barbara did. Me and Miss Hayton were fighting over the printer, so we may have done something.
Oh, we only need one?
We'll get it. Yeah, you only need one. Oh, do you have extras? Okay, there we go. So yeah, you only need one. So you'll notice that on there, it has the list for all three. So don't submit that to me until you have all three of those patients filled out. Okay? And be aware, we're doing this assignment fall, winter, and spring. So you're going to have to bring in 9 patients total. So 3 patients this quarter, 3 patients winter quarter, 3 patients spring quarter. So you best be talking to people in chapel. You best be going to Starbucks and seeing if there's anyone there, leaving pamphlets. We had people that were getting screening patients at the bus stop. That was right up here. You can go to Drayson Center. You can go on Facebook Messenger, or Marketplace, sorry. You can advertise on there. You can advertise on Craigslist. Do not leave your personal phone number and do not offer to pick the patient up. Like, that's a no-no. So if anything like that comes up, you give them Jeanette's phone number and you tell them to request an appointment with your name. You do not give them your personal phone number, and you do not make any arrangements to meet them outside of clinic, anything like that, if you don't know them.
The school email?
You can give them your student email if you want, but give them Jeanette's phone number to call and make an appointment. I recommend that you talk with Jeanette. Once you get an idea, if you have some people right now that you want to screen, if you're in the dorm, bring in whoever you're rooming with. That's one right there. When you kind of get a day, potentially try not to waste 3 separate clinic sessions screening 1 patient each time. If you can maybe screen 2 patients one day, you know, and then do maybe finish a prophy from 8 till 10 and then screen from 10 till 11, something like that. Try to make use of your time. Don't completely clear out 3 separate days because it's just wasted clinic time for you. Yes?
How long does the screening take?
So if you are just quickly screening and the patient doesn't qualify, Generally, what we're looking at is maybe half an hour to 45 minutes. If the patient does qualify, you're going to start working them up. So it's essentially going to be like a new patient, which is upwards of 3.5 hours.
So we need 3 to qualify 3 patients?
So to meet that requirement, you need to bring in 3 patients this quarter. Yes.
But when we screen, don't we look at x-rays as well?
So when you do a quick screening, no. When you do a quick screening that is in clinic, you bring them in, you have them fill out their consent forms, you review their health history, you do vitals, EO, and then you feel around with your Explorer and you say, do I feel calculus or not? And if you say, no I don't, and it's obvious that you're an adult prophy, then it's like, hey, sorry, we don't have, like, you don't qualify for my exam, but I can get you set up for cleaning if you're still interested in doing so. If it's like click, 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 then you're like, this looks good. Are you willing to be a patient? If so, let's go ahead and get you x-rays and we're gonna just treat you like a new patient.
So if I were to bring like a new patient and I could consider them, because I need like a FMX confident qualified, I could also screen them.
Yep.
I could do the FMX.
Yep,
not
exactly,
just screen.
exactly, yes.
So for the screening, we don't continue cleaning if they end up being perfect.
If they're not, it's like we don't really need you in the nicest way possible. You know, we can give you to one of the juniors when they get to a point where they're doing clinic, which is going to be spring quarter. It's like, okay, we can send you to them, but like at this point, no.
What if they're like, what kind is good at cleaning?
If they want to do that, then absolutely you can go and talk to Jeanette and just tell her, hey, this patient came in for a screening, didn't qualify, but is interested in getting a cleaning, and then we can set that up. If potentially, if Jeanette's good with it, then yes, we can start the cleaning right then.
Okay.
But they'll have to obviously pay for it.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
If I want to bring, let's say I have friends, but they're coming like from far,
Right.
maybe I know that 1 or 2 of them would qualify for any work, whatever. Can I bring them the same day, screen them, 2 of them, let's say, even if they qualify, can I just pass on that and work on them any other day so I can screen the other one?
Absolutely. So you could do all your screening one day if you just wanted to block off a whole morning and you're just going to screen all day. Absolutely, you could do that. If you wanted to, if you and a friend are like, hey, let's bring in like 6 people together. If someone qualifies, we're going to push it to one of you and I'm going to keep screening. So it's like we've got 6 people lined up. We're kind of screening together. If someone qualifies, one of you takes the patient and runs, and the other one just keeps screening. So you can make it work for you however you want. It's just making good use of your clinic time is really important right now. You have a limited amount of it, and it goes super quick. So giving up a whole session, and then it's like, oh, I booked off the whole day and my patient canceled. My screening patient canceled. You're like, well, now you just lost out on, 3.5 hours of clinic time because it's like the patient canceled. So try not to do that. Yes.
So as far as like finding out their eligibility, it's how many clicks per quad?
So an eligibility is 10 clicks.
Okay.
Preferably 5 posterior, 5 anterior.
Okay.
If you split it up and you do half an eligibility, you can do 5 anterior, but your next 5 have to be posterior.
Okay. And what if like it's not a specific quadrant? Like what if it's kind of around?
That's okay. The problem is going to be anesthesia. Can they tolerate just aura kicks on the left side, or what can we do to make it work?
Okay.
To get them numb for you to be able to do it. But when you do an eligibility, the clicks can be all over the place. I mean, it's not ideal, but we can do it like that if we need to.
And same with SRP.
The
as well?
SRP and the CBC are not like that. We want a whole quad. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
So can we do on classmates for the eligibility?
The eligibility, no. You're not supposed to do any sort of exam unless it's on a junior. You can do a junior, like for an exam, but we can't complete any sort of exam on a classmate. Yes.
Is the screening free?
Yes, the screening is free,
Okay.
so they don't have to pay for anything.
And is the CBC free for the patient? Or is
So-
like the other things?
They used to give you guys a credit.
Yeah.
It used to be like $450, and you were able to like write off. They've taken that away. And they took it away from everyone. The dental students had like $2,000, and they've taken it all away. So I need to talk to Ms. Marshall and see if there's any way for an exam we can write off the cost for an exam only. So I'll get back to you on it. But as of right now, I mean, it's kind of crazy. But see, we used to think like, well, it sucks that they're showing up, they're sitting here for 4 hours, they're being checked multiple times. Let's, and to encourage them to take time off work or whatever, like we'll pay for the treatment. So I don't know how we're dealing with that now. So I need to talk to Ms. Marshall and kind of get that clarified as far as whether we can write things off or if we're being kind of just forced to have the patient pay. You always have the ability, if you want, to pay for the patient. If you get desperate in a situation where you're like, oh my gosh, the patient has to take time off work. Like sometimes with boards, I had to pay my board patient $200 to miss a day of work. So I was like, I need you. And she was like, well, I need money. I need to work. And I was like, then I will cover your day's wage to come and do my exam. So sometimes you get desperate and you're like covering costs. You are never supposed to just pay a patient in the sense that like, hey, I'll give you like $300 if you come and sit for my exam.
What's the difference?
It's supposed to be to offset their cost. It's not supposed to be, because what ends up happening is it's a bidding war. Oh, she'll give you $300, well, I'll give you $400. Well, I'll give you $500. Well, I'll give you $1,000. And all of a sudden it's like, it's a
Who's
bidding
giving
war.
$1,000?
And that's not what we want. So we will cover the immediate cost of the treatment and potentially the day off work. But you're not supposed to be just bidding up a patient just because you're desperate and you've got some cash stocked away and you're like, I just need this patient. So yeah. Maddie.
I just had a question on because we are trying to find these board patients.
Yes.
We do talk about the bidding wars.
Yes.
What is clinic etiquette would you express to the class? Like, say if someone found a patient, but they can't go to they can only come on this clinic day and you're not in that rotation and Jeanette's like, oh, I can't offer you a chair. But you don't want to miss out on this patient. Say if I gave it to someone to screen,
So generally what my recommendation is that the way that you will work well in this class is in pods. You've got to get a group where there's a couple of you, I'm not saying split it into half or anything, but you've got to get a group of 2, 3, 4 of you that are working together and are recognizing that sometimes this person's going to get ahead and then they're going to have to take a step back to let the other person get ahead. Because things like that are going to happen. You're going to say, you know what, I don't have availability or I can't come in on this day, but I have this killer patient. So you're going to say, hey, such and such is also in my pod. So you're going to take this patient, you're going to deal with it, but next time it's my quad. So you're going to see this patient, I'm going to end up seeing this one. It's going to get messy. Everyone's going to be crying by the end of this. You're all going to hate each other because this person is going to take this one, and it happens every single year. So what you need to do is try to be as fair as you can and get them done as soon as you can. When it gets bad is May. If you're doing these in May, it's like claws come out because people are desperate. But if you're done in January, it's like no big deal. You're like, I did both of mine. I did one in December. I did one in mid-January. I'm done. So if I come across a CVC patient, you're like, take it. Whoever needs a CVC patient, I have a CVC patient, and it works well. If none of you do CVCs, and then April, everyone starts fighting over CVC patients, it gets very messy very quickly. And there is no specific guidelines. I cannot step in and say, I am taking your patient away that you found and giving it to someone else. I can bring you both in and I can talk to you and I can try to work it out as a mediator, but I cannot start taking people out of other people's charts, putting them in other places. It has to be something where you work together. It also shows overall your level of professionalism. If you're underhanded and sneaky and like taking patients or trying to do patients, work up without other people recognizing or whatever, it's like it comes back on how you look professionally as a student. And even though you think you're being sneaky about it, we're your faculty, we're signing you off, we know what's going on, and word travels around. So I recommend that you work together as much as you can as a group and that you get your competencies done as soon as you can. Nobody spring quarter was upset if somebody was taking an FMX. It was just like, oh cool, you got an FMX, well I'm doing a denture comp. But the end of summer quarter, when like somebody had an FMX and you needed it and they already have theirs and they went and took it and they could have given it to you, all of a sudden it gets like, now things are getting messy. So it gets even worse when it's CBCs because now there's money on the line because you've applied for a board and you've paid for it and now you can't graduate and all these different things happen. So I really, really, really highly encourage you, if you want to leave as a happy class, friends with each other, and in like just going out into your career and being happy and supportive of one another, you guys all should realistically have both CBCs done by the end of April, for sure. Nobody should be doing a CBC in May. So that's our goal. Hopefully, half of you will maybe do a CBC in December. We have 2 dates, one at the end of November and one in the beginning of December. Actually, it might be 2 in December. Either way, hopefully about half of you will take that. And then if a half of those pass, we'll be on a good track to get you guys going. But screening is going to be really important, and you're going to start to realize that you really can't do it on your own. I'm an independent person. I hate group work. I hate being assigned to groups. I hate all of that. So I understand when you don't want to work with other people, you just want to do it on your own and be done. It just doesn't work that way. You can't be on every single clinic session. You're in Redlands Assist, or you're in Victorville, or whatever. It's like you're assigned somewhere else. You cannot physically be here when the patient comes. So you are forced into befriending other people and trusting that it's like us 4 or us 5, we're going to work together and we're going to get the pod through as a group. That's what our focus is. The focus can't be just the individual. It's got to be a pod mentality. We're all whales now, okay? We're going to go in the pod thing. Okay. Quizzes. They're going to be multiple choice, as you see, short answers sometimes. I'm primarily going to give them at the end of the lecture. The purpose of this is to make sure that you guys are paying attention. I am not a very hard, quiz creator. I'm not trying to fail you. I'm not trying to, make it where, you're not passing seminar. It's more so that I want to make sure that you're paying attention, you're not on Amazon shopping, whatever. It's like you're actually kind of paying attention to what we're covering. So that's more so what they are. As long as you are kind of paying attention and whatnot, you'll do fine on them. Case presentation, we had talked about this. It's going to be due spring quarter. We want to get kind of an interesting patient. Work with at least 3 other classmates. If you have to work with 4, that's fine. Presentation, you're going to present it when you do as a group, and hopefully each person has put in some work on that patient. The ideal patient is obviously an SRP patient who needs multiple appointments, so you did a quad, they did a quad, another person did a quad, you did a perio re-eval, whatever. It's kind of nice to do an SRP patient. Obviously, not all SRP patients are going to qualify for the SRP competency or the exam. I remember when I first started, I was so excited. I was like, I got an SRP patient. And then I went in there and I was like, there's no calculus. Why is there no calculus? So sometimes you do an SRP patient just because there's deeper pockets. There's a 6 and you're in there and you're like, I don't feel anything. You're doing it because there's inflammation present. There's bleeding. There's exudate, there's whatever. So not all SRP is going to qualify for your SRP competency or your CBC. Okay, those are really extreme cases of SRP.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are you using CBC and eligibility?
So I'm not really focusing this quarter on eligibility because I consider that to really be a summer kind of requirement.
We didn't
So what I'm saying is that is a requirement just like your care of removable. That was kind of assigned and worked on in the past few quarters. Most of you at this point should kind of be I'm not really thinking about care of removable, I'm moving forward. So that's what I'm saying. The eligibility, you guys are kind of already starting to work on that. So did you get a lecture from Miss Lee on your what an eligibility is? I'm assuming you did because you've all started taking them. So you kind of have already been prepped on it. You've been informed of the requirements and all of that. What are you looking at me like that for?
I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about.
CBC eligibility.
Unless I was out of town the week we went over it. I don't remember hearing anything about it.
There was a whole lecture. I'll share it with you.
There was a lecture, but we didn't do any.
We haven't
Okay, so your eligibilities, you guys should be taking them as they come. If you have a patient that is an SRP patient, take a look and see if they have calculus. We are looking for them 10 pieces of subgingival moderate calculus. If you find that anywhere, we need to start getting you taking your eligibilities. So an eligibility, I was assuming, because I worked with a couple of you last quarter that were doing eligibility, so I kind of figured you guys were like all in the motions of like starting to work on those. If you haven't, let's really make that a priority for October. Okay, so CBCs, because SRP comp is mid-November, I think it's the 13th, 14th, and 16th, something like that, or the 13th, 15th,
11, 13, 14.
something like that. There you go. So for October, if you do not have your eligibilities completed, then let's go ahead and get that taken care of in October. So you're looking for 20 pieces total of calculus. You can either do 4 5s, so four exams that are 5 pieces each. You can do 2 exams that are 10 pieces each. You can do 2 exams that are 5 pieces and 1 exam that's 10 pieces. Whatever you want, you got to scale a total of 20 pieces. 10 pieces have to be anteriors, 10 pieces have to be posteriors.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
so we need at least 2.
So you need 2 eligibilities.
And that's out of the 3 people we bring in.
No. The screening
This is
patients
anyway.
have nothing to do with the eligibilities.
Unless
This-
they do.
Unless they do. But the screening patients are primarily intended as a senior student for CBC and board exams. That's what my focus is for you guys, is getting you through a mock board and getting you a board patient. That's what I am responsible for doing. So that's what those, now if your screening patient qualifies for some other competency that you need, absolutely utilize it for that. But that's not really why you're bringing them in. We're looking for heavy quads of calculus. That's what we're looking for when we are screening these patients. Yes.
So I have a question. Say for example, I choose a clinic day to bring in 2 patients to screen. Can I also do like an FMX on each?
Sure.
I
Absolutely.
would have enough time to see that
Yep.
before?
But you just have to remember they have to pay for it. So yeah. But if they're fine to do that, absolutely. You can start doing that. Yes.
And we can start screening right away. Or
You can screen tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, you can't because we don't have clinic. Thursday.
Thursday, we don't have.
Next week.
We have lab.
We don't have
Oh,
plans
and we
until
don't have it
next
on
week.
Friday either. See, this is what happens. This is what happens. Is that every quarter, it's like this day is gone, and that clinic session is gone, and that clinic session is gone, and then all of a sudden you have 10 clinic sessions left. And it's very stressful, and it's stressful for me because I want you guys, and I get stressed out on your behalf because I'm like, you guys don't have enough time, and everyone ends up like, kind of scrambling at the last minute. Yes.
Do you have any advice into how you got patients personally?
So my board patient that I got, well, my CBC patient, I split with another classmate. He was a farm student. My other CBC patient she ended up being my board patient. I found my board patient on May 29th. I went out to Palm Desert because it was first year. I am not kidding. I screened 36 patients. I had 4 chairs going, and I literally hopped. I had a wait, like a line of people that were waiting, and I just screened and screened and screened and screened. And you get over it. You will fail a lot. It'll be like, nope, nope, nope. But eventually you'll find it. It took me 36 patients. But it was perfect. She was the ideal patient. It could not have gone better. She was totally wanted to be there for me. She was outside of her house. I picked her up because she was kind of like a family friend, like an extended, like a friend of a friend of a friend type of thing. I picked her up. She was ready, got in the car, drove all the way out there, paid her for her day, bought her lunch on the way home, dropped her off, and that was it. So it does happen, but you have to be persistent. If you sit there and expect that Jeanette's going to give you your SRP comp patient, it is not happening. She is not going to give you your CBC patient. She is not going to give you your board patient. It sucks. They don't tell you this early enough, in my opinion, but that's the way it goes down. It is all on you. And it is on you as an entire group. So you have got to start working now. So I'm lighting the fire with hopes that you will all be done your CBCs so that when you go in and you're graduating, everybody's like, it's official, we're graduating. Our clinic requirements are done, our CBCs are done, I have a board patient lined up, life is great. That's what I want. I don't want you here the last day when Mary Hartwell is like sweeping people out of the clinic, like hurry up and leave, we're setting up for boards, and you guys are scrambling like, oh my God, trying to get a patient. It's way too stressful and it's unnecessary. So we screen early, we work up early, and we get you done early. Good? Yes.
Are you able to screen on a day that you don't have clinic, but there is clinic that day if there is?
Yes, you can. You need to talk to Jeanette about getting a chair, and if that happens, you have to understand that your faculty, we are short on faculty this quarter. It's going to be tight. And because of that, when you come in, you need to kind of be like a church mouse, like you're just kind of doing your own thing over here, and if you really need help, you go and ask somebody. That's free. But you can't just expect to like mesh into a pod that's already existing and like, oh, come check my data and like do a treatment plan for me. You kind of have to be there doing your thing, and just like if you need to ask for help, do so, but just don't expect that the faculty are going to drop what they're doing for the students that are assigned to start helping you. The way it's actually done is Barbara knows the certain number of hours that each of you need to meet graduation requirements set forth by California. So all of you, you'll notice you had more clinic time than such and such last quarter. Well, now you have more clinic time than them. It's all done to meet an hourly requirement. So the thing is that if you start adding clinic time, now you're kind of pulling faculty away from the students that they really should be focusing on teaching.
Yeah.
You know, it's like everyone should get like 1,000 hours of instructor assistance. But if you start coming in once a week where it's like all of a sudden you're at like 1,500, and it's kind of like, well, that's not really fair to the other students because you're pulling time from them, is kind of what, you know, big picture that we're talking. Yes?
So as far as screening goes, do we need someone, are we screening on our own and then getting a faculty to sign off?
Yes. You don't even need a faculty to sign off.
We're just filling this out?
You're just filling that out.
Okay.
So this is like an independent assignment. You are going to decide when you want to screen. You are going to go talk to Jeanette and get that day opened up. You are going to confirm with that patient that you want them to come in to screen. You are going to screen that patient. You and your faculty will decide, is this worth pursuing? And if it is, you work up that patient. And if it's not, sucks, patient leaves, you write down that you screen the patient, unfortunately didn't qualify.
They have to be new too. You can't just like steal a dental student.
No. They have to be new.
So I can't just go to the lobby and be like, hey, who wants a screening?
No, you have to actually bring in a new patient.
And they have to go through the paperwork first, all of that?
Yes, so they do have to get a chart made and they do have to sign those initial consents. Okay? Yes.
So like if we do that, we bring in a patient, they fill out all the paperwork, and they do the consents. Our instructors have to be there to sign off for that, right?
They do have to sign off. Well, the patient signs the consents, and then you review the health history. The faculty will approve that really quickly for you. Then you do vitals, EO, IO, and then quick screening, and your faculty will kind of check you out as you dismiss your patient.
Okay.
If you say they do or don't qualify.
So when we have a screening patient come in, Jeanette's going to schedule them so that no other patient gets seen.
Yes, but you have to talk to Jeanette.
Okay.
This is on you. This is your responsibility to get the patient signed up, to get the patient brought in, to ensure that you have open time. That is all on you. Jeanette she's in charge of your schedule, but if you don't communicate with her, you'll end up with a patient and a screening patient. And then you're going to have to ask somebody else who doesn't have a patient, screen that patient for you. Yes.
Are we gonna have any mobile clinics where we could just go ahead and screen?
We're gonna see if we can, but at this point, probably not. We did screening nights for a while, and it was an utter disaster. We would get maybe 20 patients. They would come in. We would get 2 patients that maybe qualified, and we pull names out of a hat. And inevitably, each time we did a screening, the same person's name kept coming out of the hat or whatever. And it just got way too complicated because this person handed out a stack of screening cards this big. This person sat at Starbucks. That person's name got drawn out of the hat. It did not work out the way it should have, which is why it's now being put individually on each of you. You each need to bring in 3 screening patients. Yes?
I want my pre-screening patients to be as successful or as possible. What questions do you ask so that you can get ideal?
So what you want to make sure, you're not looking for an 80-year-old patient with dentures. So realistically, we're looking for someone who's between the ages of about 20 and 40, in relatively good health. You know, we don't want someone who has just had open heart surgery or something like that. It's relatively healthy, and they haven't had their teeth cleaned for about 5 years. Now, some people will qualify after 2, because guess what? They haven't really been having their teeth cleaned. They've been having their teeth polished and not scaled or whatever. So some people will say, oh, you know, I just got my teeth cleaned like, you know, about a year and a half or 2 years ago. So you can say, do you notice bleeding gums when you're brushing or flossing? Do you ever have a bad taste in your mouth? Any of those signs of perio, ask them about that. Do you notice that your teeth are kind of stained or darkening? Any of that gives you the idea, okay, they notice that there's some calculus on their teeth. At that point, that kind of helps you identify who you would or wouldn't have come in. If they say, I've had my teeth cleaned every 6 months for my entire life, my parents have really good insurance, I've done it, it's like probably it's not going to work out. You know, they probably are too healthy to qualify. Yes?
So I have a couple people who wanted to come in and get their teeth cleaned, and they're new, they haven't been here before, but they would probably end up being progies.
Okay.
Should I just not?
If you are worried that you're not going to get any other screening patients to meet this requirement, sure, have them as your screening patient. But if you feel like you can get other patients to come in that are more likely to qualify, then I would recommend you do that. This assignment is to benefit you. This is to get you a patient. So it has nothing to do with like you can just, if you wanted to bring 3 random people in, like my mom, my dad, my brother, all of which who get their teeth cleaned every 6 months, you can bring them in and screen them and I'll give you the credit for it. But like that was a complete waste of time for you. You know, there's no point, like I said, you have limited amount of clinic time. You don't want to just waste it on patients that you know aren't going to qualify. Like, yeah, I get it, you want that requirement. If you are seriously that like maxed out where you're like, I have tried everybody and like this is what's happening, I have no one who qualifies, then come talk to me. Like, I'm not, you know, I don't want you just bringing in someone who you know doesn't qualify just so that you can like, well, I just didn't want to get a bad grade. Like, if you're at that point, don't waste clinic time doing that. But this assignment is meant that if you bring, I would say about 60 to 75 of our graduating students got their board patient from this assignment. So they brought in about 9 patients and they got one. And that's what it's going to take pretty much. Is you screening about 9-10 patients, you'll probably find a board patient in that. But it's going to take bringing in 9 or 10 patients, which is why you've got to talk to people. When you're in chapel, talk to the people who are next to you. Talk to the incoming classes. Now, board patients cannot be dental students, dental assistants, dentists themselves. They cannot have any affiliation with a dental practice or anything like that. So having a junior that qualifies for a board is meaningless, unfortunately. Yes?
You said they have to be at least 20 years old?
I would just say, I mean, they could be 18, but like normally, 18 is the lower limit. Normally, what happens is, mom and dad have insurance. Every 6 months they get their teeth cleaned. They turn like 18. They go out on their own. They have really bad dietary habits. They're smoking and they're not telling their parents, whatever. All this bad, you know, kind of behavioral stuff starts happening. They don't get their teeth cleaned because they're off mom and dad's insurance or whatever. Or they've got university insurance, but they're not actually using it. So they end up after 2-3 years, it's like you need SRP. So that's generally why like around 20 is kind of when you start like, okay, you could use 4 quads. That doesn't mean necessarily that no one who's 17 is going to need it, but it's just like generally, most people it takes a couple years of being off mom and dad's insurance before the calculus starts building up. Yes?
Is there an age limit as far as like the oldest your patient?
The older you get, the more likely it is they are not going to qualify, and the more challenging the calculus is going to be. They're going to have recession, they're going to have deeper probing depths. We want a patient where it's like 324, 424, 424, 424, subgingival calculus all the way, pretty much all that calculus is on the CEJ or maybe even the enamel. That's what we want.
Okay.
That's perfect. You're going to pass that.
And the pocket depths are what's
Pocket
the,
depth and max pocket depth is 7 millimeters.
Okay.
And really, you don't want to scale anything deeper. If that is a big old click at 7 millimeters, you're not going to get it out well enough to be able to pass the exam. So like, you know, it doesn't make sense. Yes.
Can we start doing the nitrous comps?
You have to complete your nitrous exam first, and then once we do the lecture and you complete the exam, then you can do the nitrous comp.
When is that?
That is week 4, I believe. So we'll get into that. Yes.
If you happen to get assigned with a new patient to the school, would you consider that as a screening?
No. I mean, okay, if that happens and the patient qualifies, sure. But if it doesn't, again, yes, it meets the requirement, but it doesn't actually get you anywhere. So again, this assignment is intended to help you progress through this program, get the patients that you need, and be successful. If you're just trying to like fill out that sheet, it kind of defeats the purpose of what we're doing. Yes.
If I screen 9 this first year and got to screen the other couple of years?
If you get all your patients, then yes,
Okay.
you can be done.
All right.
Okay. Okay, reading is assigned. Obviously, you guys are going to have to do some reading.
No.
Into 475. What's going to be different this quarter, because you guys are going to be seniors, or you are seniors, you're going to have more clinic time. The focus in the junior year is didactic, so we work in lots of classes, lots of midterms, lots of finals. Now we are moving more to clinical requirements. We're focusing your time on becoming clinically proficient. We're going to have higher expectations from faculty. You guys should not be taking 4 hours to do a simple prophy. Okay, you guys are past that level now. So we need to start working you guys on time management. You need to be able to do an entire prophy, potentially including x-rays, in 45 minutes when you graduate. Okay, so if it's taking you 4 hours, it's like, whoa, man, we gotta really start to whittle that down.
That's just scaling, right? That's not.
Oh no, that's everything.
That's full data and.
Yep. So we gotta get you guys going down. Sometimes it's an hour, but then you have a doctor exam. So they take 5-10 minutes. You gotta turn over your room, you gotta do your note. So it's a time squeeze. So you have to really start working on reducing your time now. Become more proficient, become more prepared when you come into clinic. There's going to be less leeway for mistakes in regards to your axiom grading. So if we go in there and we're like, oh, there's calculus here and here and here and blah, blah, don't expect a 4. Okay, there's juniors here now, you guys are the seniors, and you're expected that, okay, you've had now 2 full quarters of clinic, so you should be more comfortable. You should be able to add your attendance. You know, when your faculty walk up, that should be done. When we come up and we say, oh, what are you doing today, and you say a 4-month recall, we should be able to say, okay, are you doing 4s and above, full data, whatever? You should be able to know the whole thing. It's like, I reviewed this last night, I know exactly what I need. I need to talk to your doctor about this or whatever. So we need to make sure that you guys feel comfortable just kind of executing yourselves on clinic. We have new block rotations. So we had Redlands Assistance League, Ball Debut, Victorville. You guys did your Victorville orientation, correct? Victorville was my favorite rotation. It was super cool. The instruments are super dull. The Cavitron tips suck. You won't really be able to do anything, but it's a cool rotation. The first time that I had gone there, we were working on this patient. He was super cool. He was like a truly Irish guy. Like he was from Ireland, like the full accent and everything. And we started working on the calculus. And we didn't realize he had a calculus bridge from 21 to 28. So we got partnered up. So my partner and I are like sitting there and we're like working on it. And the funniest part was they tell you like you cannot touch the patient or anything. So she's in the assistant chair. Well, she had never been in the assistant chair. She like leaned forward to suction, and she fell out of the chair onto him. The chair slipped out, so she fell onto the patient. And then he jumped up and was like, "I didn't do anything." He was standing there like, because it's a big deal. Those guys like to get to where they can get the medical care. So he was freaking out. She was like totally red. The dentist was there, kind of like laughing. But we ended up getting him back in the chair, and we scaled, and his whole lower came out.
All his teeth?
All the teeth. There were no X-rays, so we weren't able to go off of any of that. So we didn't realize that the canines were the canine and the bridge of calculus was what was holding it in. So when we knocked it out, the whole thing came out, and we were both like, should we tell him? Oh my god! But he was super cool about it. And we had the dentist go over there and everything, and they were like, we're going to fit him for a partial and whatnot. But it was very cool. It was for sure the coolest rotation. So hopefully you guys, sometimes they get like a lockdown or whatever and you can't go. Hopefully that doesn't happen, because like over Redlands it says Baldy View is a bunch of kids, which is like cool, but it's not like really cool cases. Victorville, every case we got there was like super cool. And the patients are so nice. They're on good behavior. They desperately want their teeth cleaned. They're really, like, they are really cool people. So I think you guys will really like that. Obviously, we had talked about it. Yes?
Baldy View is kids?
Baldy View is primarily children. Sometimes they bring in adults, or they'll be like 18.
What is
Baldy
Baldy View?
View it's going to be up kind of in Fontana. It's in a kind of a unit that's up there. Most of the time they have a bus that will commute you up there. I don't know if they've been doing that, so Miss Lee runs that rotation, so she'll meet you guys up there. And you go and you do a lot of sealants during that time. You'll do some cleanings and things like that. You can get some competencies, yeah.
School?
It is,
Victorville is not.
Victorville is a prison.
Yeah, no competency.
No competencies at Victorville, no. At Baldy View, I don't know if it's technically a school. I think it's like a federally qualified health center. I think they focus on child and pediatric health care. So it's different. You just won't get the same level of patients. You'll get children that have been kind of neglected and things like that. But generally, it's just not the same level of like advanced perio that you'll probably be interested in. Redlands Assist, Miss Big Doll is primarily the one that does that. Victorville, you drive by yourself. You just partner up and everybody drives up there, and you get there and you kind of go into the main office and you go from there. There's no faculty that go there. I was thinking there was, but there's not. And you just there's I think 4 areas. There's like the Pen 1, Pen 2, they've got a couple things, and you just kind of get assigned to where you're going to go. And you get like a person who is assigned to you. It's normally the dentist, and she walks you through the whole check-in process and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of cool. Make sure when you go to Victorville, they probably told you this, but like you can't wear bobby pins. I had a pair of Puma shoes. It was a total nightmare. They had some like metal plate in them that I didn't realize that was on like it wasn't the sole, it was right kind of in the center. I didn't realize it, and I went through the metal detector, and I kept like going through, and he's like, are you sure you don't have anything else? And I'm like, I am positive, like I have nothing. I wore my hair in a ponytail, and that was it. I was like, I have nothing on that's metal. And he's like, take off your shoes. So I took off my shoes, and then I went through and I passed. So then they had to do this whole inspection thing on my shoes. So just kind of make sure that when you go, don't wear bobby pins, don't have anything that's like somewhat, metallic, because it'll get pulled. And then you guys can bring your lunch. It's a little depressing where you have to eat. You go into a building there's no windows. So you go into like this room and there's no windows in it, and it's a federal penitentiary. Like, it's not going to be warm and fuzzy. It's just kind of like a little bit depressing, but the actual clinical part of it will be cool. You'll learn a lot. Yes.
Our Victorville, for this quarter is scheduled Friday morning.
Okay.
So is it, AM, that's what it says on the schedule. Is it both AM and PM then?
So sometimes it depends. It's a really weird system, unlike any others, because it depends on how many people they can get, how many people have free time. There's so many requirements that the inmates have to go through. Sometimes it's like, they have a medical issue and the medical appointment supersedes the dental appointment. So I mean, we went in one time and we each saw one patient, and then it was like, well, you guys can pretty much go because everybody else is held up. One time we were there, it went into it wasn't like a lockdown, like it wasn't a full lockdown, it was a partial lockdown in the fact that it was like everyone had to stay in their unit. They didn't have to stay in their cell, but they had to stay in the unit, so they couldn't cross the grounds to get to the dental. So it was like, okay, well, again, like, you know, it's kind of pointless for us to be here. So things like that happen, but I would recommend bringing your lunch just in case, and you're kind of out in the boonies, you know, to get to a place to stop at the way home, you might be kind of hungry. So I would bring something, you know.
So is that rotation like 8 to 12, just like we do here,
So
or is it like longer?
It may go longer. It may go longer. You normally get there, I believe, at 8, and sometimes it goes like 1:30. But you should be out of there by about 12. Like I said, it just kind of depends on when you get there what the patient situation is. Sometimes you get there and it's like we have 4 patients and there's 5 of you. Everyone gets a patient, and when you're done, it's kind of like, okay, like, see you guys later. And then other times it's like, no, we actually have a full, you know, set of patients that we can have. So it just kind of depends on what the day is. It's all over the place. Sometimes you guys will get notice the morning of lockdown, so don't come. You know, so you'll be prepared to go, you'll show up, and it'll be like, you'll get an email from Barbara, you can't go today.
Do we need to bring a green sheet every time?
To your block rotations, yes. Yep.
They mentioned you're supposed to see three patients each time that it's loaded.
So if you can, absolutely, but sometimes you can't. It just totally depends on what the current environment in the penitentiary is. Okay, so we also want you guys making sure that you bring in, of course, the 3 patients for screening. We've gone over that. Administer 1 site of arrest in, secure an SRP patient, and complete any remaining competencies. When you come to clinic, please make sure you are on time. We check out at 11:15 and 4:15. That means your patient is walking out. Okay? Not, hey, can you check my scaling? I still need to polish, floss. Also, I wanted to do fluoride, but I didn't treatment plan it. Can we do that? All of a sudden, now the patient's leaving at 11:55, and we're all backed up. Okay? So you have to understand that all of the faculty, Jeanette and the sterilization guys cannot leave until all of us have left, and they are paid hourly. So the school does not like when one of you is sitting upstairs finishing up your patient, and now they're paying overtime for 6 employees who are stuck sitting there waiting for you to leave. So we need to make sure that we are being conscious of our time and getting the patients out in a reasonable amount of time.
Can we sneak patients in earlier then?
No, they're being kind of crazy about that as far as you guys not being able to bring them in before 8:10 and 1:10. If we can try to adjust it, we can, but we've been told by those who are in charge of clinic, no. So it doesn't really make sense. If we were in South Wing, we wouldn't have a problem, but we've been moved and we had no say in that. So we are where we are. All competencies should be completed by week 8, okay? That's when you should pretty much be done for this quarter. So make sure you plan on that. You need to submit your competencies, preferably the same day. If you hold on to them forever and submit a stack of competencies this big to Barbara at the end of the quarter, you're not getting credit for them. Okay? She goes through and enters over 3,000 competencies for each one of your classes. It is insane. And she does not need, at the end of the quarter, when she's got the jillion things to do, all those competencies. So you have a 1-week turnaround. Once you submit that once you complete that competency, you have 1 week to submit it to Barbara. If it is over 1 week when she obtains it, you're not getting credit for it. So turn it in on time. Also, if you notice an error with your comp printout, you need to talk to her immediately. You send her an email. You tell her which comp it is, you attach a photo of that competency, and you confirm with her that you now have credit for it. Okay? So don't go bombard her office when you get your comp report and there's 18 of you lined up and you're like, but this one and that one. No, you look up on your phone or whatever, get the photo that you have of the competency, submit that to her with an explanation, and wait for a response. If after a day or two you don't hear anything, then you go back in and talk to him. Okay? Good. Further expectations, we kind of know cubicles should be set up by 5 minutes till, including your Cavitron. You should have all your anesthesia. Attendance should be added. Health history should be signed by the patient before we get there. Case presentation should be filled out in its entirety before you call the faculty over. That doesn't mean just the points that you can easily fill in. That means the whole case presentation plan. Treatment plan needs to be added before the instructor is called. We will approve it. The idea is you should know what's your treatment plan. So you should already say it's perio maintenance. I'm good with it being perio maintenance. I'm going to add it. And when we come over, we say, you're right, it is a perio maintenance, and we approve it. If we go over and we decide, no, it's something different, then we'll just delete it. But you should be putting it in the computer because you should be confident at this point to say, I know what this patient needs. There should be a thorough review of proposed treatment provided to the patient. Do not just say, so you need SRP, so we're going to go ahead and do that. The cost is going to be $36 a quad. You can go ahead and sign here. Patient doesn't know what SRP is. Patient doesn't know what Cavitron is. Patient doesn't know what calculus is. They don't know what any of that is. You should be reviewing and informing them that they have periodontal disease. And we should be able to walk up and say, do you know what periodontal disease is? And they should be able to look at us and be like, kinda. Okay? Should they be able to spout out everything? No. But if they walk up and they're like, what's periodontal disease? It's like, you haven't done your job. So part of OHI is not just, this is how you brush, this is how you floss, okay, good job, here's a nimbus. That's not all of it. It should be educating them on like what exactly perio is, what they're preventing, how they're preventing it, how does calculus form, why is plaque a bad thing. That should be part of your oral hygiene instruction, and it should be part of what you're discussing when you say, we're doing a perio maintenance. Do you think they have any idea what that means? Did you know what that meant when you were sitting in pre-clinic on day one? Because that's where they're at right now. They have no idea. So when you say, we're going to do a perio maintenance, or we're going to do a prophy, they're like, you mean a regular cleaning? That's what they think a prophy is, a regular cleaning. So you have to describe, we're preventing periodontal disease. Do you know what that is? No, you don't. So let me inform you of that. Okay, yes?
Do you know when we're getting those chair signed books?
No, I'll talk to Miss Lennon and see. Those would. They do. They help a lot. So we will work on that. So we need to make sure that consent is always signed before you initiate treatment. Do not forget where the patient left and you're like, oh no, the patient didn't sign for the SRP. And then we're like, great, now we have to bring them back or figure out what to do. So make sure that the patient signs consent for that. If you are in a private office, this will happen once to you. Because you will say, I did this treatment, and you'll say, I decided that they needed 4 quads, so I did it. And your insurance coordinator will come up to you and be like, they didn't sign the financial agreement. And you'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot that. And he'll be like, well, that's cool because we were going to charge his insurance $700 and now we can't because he didn't sign for it. And you're going to be like, oh, okay, so I just cost you $700. So you do not forget to sign the treatment. We really should not be doing that. We should not be having the patient sign after the fact. They're signing that that's the treatment, that they've been fully informed, and that they agree to the price. If we complete the treatment and then they say, I don't agree to the $53, well now you're paying $53. Because it's like, you didn't get their signature. Sometimes there's a problem and we can clarify, okay, $53. Computer's not working, the signature pad is not working, but it is $53. My faculty is here, it is $53. Are you cool with that? Like if we continue, yeah, okay, I am, we can move on. But in general, it should be signed. You should be, when you are done scaling, you should be exploring the entire quad, the entire arch, whatever, the whole mouth, before you call us over. If we come over and there's like calculus just splattered throughout, and it's like, okay, no air was used, no explorer was used, I don't think you used a mirror, like it's just everywhere, then we're just going to stand up and say, we need to reassess the whole thing. We should be coming over and identifying, there's a click on the distal of 3, and then go all the way around. There's a click on the mesial of 19. Okay, like 2 pieces. It shouldn't be distal of 2, mesial of 2. Distal of 3, directed 3. Mesial 3. Like, if that's what it is, then it's like you need to go back and re-explore because you're missing all of the surfaces. Does that make sense? It's just a waste of time. It's a waste of time for us to sit there and just call out every single piece of calculus. That you guys should be at the point right now where you're actually able to explore, find it, and remove it. Make sure that your competency self-assessment is completed before you give your competency to your instructor. The self-assessment is you saying, I did good or I did bad. It doesn't impact what your faculty grades you at. I have talked, or I've worked with you guys before where you're like, I failed that, and I'm like, no, actually you passed it. So maybe you think you failed it, but I passed it. If I walk over and all the time you just give yourself A's, I did awesome, 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 nothing wrong. It's like, are you really self-assessing? Because honestly, I could sit down and do an IA and then come out and be like, honestly, I probably came a little bit too far anterior, like, or I probably did this, or whatever. There's always something that it's like, that probably wasn't ideal. So if people like Miss Lennon, who has like been doing anesthesia for ages and teaching it, like she's the anesthesia guru, if she was still like, I probably should have done this better, there's a good chance that there's something that you probably could have done better. So put some effort into your self-assessment. Patient dismissed by 11:15 and 4:15. We talked about that. Please make sure you do your notes immediately. What happens is if you do not, we have everybody is done, they dismiss their patient, and then they slowly start like doing their cleanup. And then everybody is done at the same time. You guys all do your notes. And then you're all like, my note's done, my note's done, my note's done. And it's like, okay. So we've all been sitting around for like 20 minutes just like watching you guys clean. And then you're like, my note's done, all at the same time. So if you guys can do all of your notes first, start cleaning, then we can go in and do your notes as you're cleaning and everyone kind of gets done at the same time. If we do it opposite, you guys won't be leaving here until 5:20, 5:25, because it's like we're doing all of our notes at 5 o'clock. And then we end up with overtime issues, so just make sure your notes are done first. Grading, obviously we kind of talked about this. You're not going to receive a 4 if you missed a medication. You're not going to receive a 4 if you missed a couple deep probing depths, or if you didn't complete all your recession, or you didn't complete mobility. If at 11:25 you're asking for a scale check, you're not going to get a 4 in clinic management. You're not going to receive a 4 if you're late, or if your hair is all like messy or whatever, or if you've got like super chipped or like neon green nail polish, or if you're constantly going up and interrupting your instructor. You know, they're working with another patient and you're just like butting in. There's all those types of things. I'm not saying this is it. I'm just saying these are examples of like what is not going to get you a 4. You're being held to a higher standard. So a 4 when you were in winter quarter is not going to give you the same 4 right now. In winter quarter, you had no idea what you were doing. You were just kind of like bumping into walls, and it was like, okay, as long as you like didn't kill your patient, like we'll give you 4. And now it's kind of like, no, like we have higher standards here of what you should be expected to do, and because of that, it's going to be harder for you to get a 4. And next quarter, it's going to be even harder to get you a 4. And final quarter, it's going to be even harder to get a 4. It's not that it's like we just don't want to give you 4s, it's that our expectation for your performance gets tighter each quarter. Yes?
Are we, do you have access to anything showing what the expectations are?
So what it is generally, we don't have it fully written out. It's meets requirements, exceeds requirements, whatever. A 4 technically means that you exceed our requirements. A 3 means you've met them.
But as far as like what the requirements are?
Yes, so the requirements are going to be when you go into Axiom, you'll see where it says health history, and then it'll say right next to it, reviewed health history, vitals, whatever. That's what you're being graded on, but there isn't an explicit step-by-step, like for professionalism, it's not like you're being graded on your hair, on your uniform, on your shoes, on your what, it's kind of like,
It's subjective.
it's kind of subjective. So, I mean, I know it sucks, it's not great. The biggest thing is, like, don't panic if you get a 3. Like, it all kind of, it all comes out in the wash. When we get towards the end, there's so many other things that go into it. I mean, if you're getting like 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, then it's like, okay, there's an issue. Like, we need to start working on this. But if it's like 4, 3, 4, 3, like, at the end of it, most of you end up with high B's to A's in clinic anyway. If you're getting your requirements met and you're doing a good job, you'll get probably like an A minus, you know, if you're there doing, you know, your basic requirements. Yes.
Say your faculty is with another student in the pod and then you need that instructor. Do you just stand there or do you just say, excuse me? and
So you could just like, if
that
you
just
could just
too
kind of
rough?
like, no. So if you kind of just like stand there and kind of like try to make eye contact and just be like, whenever you need. But if you're like, Miss Ellington, I need help over here, then it's kind of like, I am like doing perio charting right now. Like I will come be with you in a minute. So it's just kind of more that. If it's, I mean, if me and Miss Z are sitting there, we're like joking and whatever, and you come up and talk to us, it's not like, you're interrupting the conversation. I'm just saying it's like more so like if you're just the type, none of you are like that. I've never had a problem with anyone doing it, but I'm just saying if you're just kind of butting in or being rude, it's kind of like, okay, you're gonna get knocked down.
If we're ever waiting on EOIO, can we just jump and start doing data?
Not unless you confirm it with your faculty
So
first.
just ask like, hey,
Ask your
while I wait,
faculty,
can I do
you can
data?
say, hey, I've been waiting for 5 minutes. Can I start with my data? And then when you are done, you can come over and check the EOIO. Most of them, if they're behind, they'll say yes. But don't just start going ahead unless you've asked your faculty, or else they will mark you down for you essentially flouting the rules. Yes.
Does that count for skill checks too? Like we can't go ahead and polish?
Yeah, same thing. So if you wanna, or sometimes like I'll be really busy, like everyone needs data at the same time. So I'll look at you and I'll be like, okay, just start with your, start with, you know, flat score and OHI. And then I'll tell somebody else like, okay, do that, do your case presentation, enter it all in the computer, start working on putting your data into the computer or whatever. So you kind of try to juggle as best you can, but generally ask your faculty before you move forward, because otherwise it looks like, oh, you just forgot, or you didn't think that you needed to ask me. It just kind of looks like you're like, whatever, I'm just going to do my own thing. So just kind of confirm with them, like pop in, hey, you're busy, can I move on to data? Okay, cool. You know, and if you do that, they'll be happy. Okay, block rotations, we talked about those. There are rotation reviews located in Canvas under modules. Please review all of them. There isn't one, I don't believe, for Victorville, which I'm sorry, that's not what I'm saying. They're there for all of them. Are you guys still doing Sac Norton?
No.
Nope.
Okay, so that must be what I'm thinking. Anyway, make sure that you know when you're supposed to be where for which rotation. You need to bring all of your own equipment, loops, instruments, cabotrons, all of that, except for at Victorville. You do not bring your own instruments, you do not bring your own cabotron, anything like that, not at Victorville. Victorville, they provide everything for you. But Baldy View and Redlands Assistance, you do need to bring your stuff. So if you travel here and Friday morning you're at Redlands or something like that, you're probably going to want to, like, Thursday, take all your stuff home. Because otherwise you're going to have to come here, get your stuff, and then drive to Redlands, which you don't really want to do if you can avoid it. So make sure you guys review all of those. You need to make sure that a block rotation form is filled out and submitted. That records your attendance. You do need to fill out like the self-reflection portion of that. Victorville sometimes has cancellations. We talked about this. They'll go into lockdown. So Barbara will try to give you as much information beforehand that she can. For screening patients, again, 3 patients screened this quarter. Fill out the paperwork, send it in to me. If you want to do it electronically, that's fine. If you want to give me a paper copy, that is fine. Do not, the patient doesn't have to qualify for the exam. You just need to simply bring them in. New patients assigned by Jeanette preferably are not going to count unless it's kind of an extenuating circumstance, then come talk to me. But primarily, Jeanette is just assigning patients at will, so it's not really fair, you know. So anyway, inform Jeanette of the days you would like to screen so she won't schedule your patient. Try to respect the fact that she has a really complicated and overwhelming job. And it's really hard for you, like when you call and you're like, hey, like this afternoon, can you like move my patient because I have a screening patient? Like that messes up a lot of different things. So the more time you can give her, the nicer she's going to be to you. And you kind of want Jeanette to be on your side. So try to be the type of person that is like, as, you know, giving her as much time as possible, following back up with her, being very nice to her. Don't be demanding. You know, she kind of controls your fate to some degree, who's getting what patient. So being nice to Jeanette definitely seems to pay off. Yes.
How far in advance should we let her know?
I mean, if you really know, like you know the people that you want to bring in, like your boyfriend has some family and you're like, I'm going to bring them in, and you talk to them tonight, you're like, which day do you guys want to come in? You can tell her now. But if it's, I'm just saying, you just don't want it to all be last minute. What we cannot have happen is for all of you guys to show up Thursday at 11 and tell her, oh, us 6, we have screening patients today. So if you could like make our patients disappear even though they're already in the waiting room, like that would be great. Because she's going to look at you and be like, well, you can screen and then you're going to have to see that patient.
Okay.
So the more time in advance, the better off you're going to be. Yes. Yes, so if you want to screen more than that, you can definitely do it and just add it onto there, or I'll give you another sheet or whatever, and then we'll have it roll over. Try to bring in, like I said, the screening patients on the same day. Arrestin, we're going to go ahead and place this. You need to place one side of Arrestin on an active patient, primarily after you have done SRP. We want you to be able to get in there, really scale. Hopefully the area is numb. You can really get that Arrestin in there and it works really well. It's a great time to use it at a perio reeval. We can sometimes do it at a perio maintenance appointment if we've really gotten in there and done some work. But yeah, submit to Barbara. You're going to have that Arrestin competency. We talked about that. We will talk about it again. It's the competency form for Arrestin located upstairs in the little file folder drawer where all your other competencies are. So you'll fill one of those out. Your faculty will sign it. You'll submit it to Barbara. And you'll get credit. The SRP competency, we're going to have a whole thing on this, but just so that you guys are kind of aware, again, it has to be passed before you can take a CBC. You need to start screening now. You need to have a full workup. You're not going to know realistically that a patient needs SRP unless the full workup is done. So it kind of goes hand in hand. But it's like your adult prophy, everything needs to be done except the scaling. So when your patient comes in for that SRP comp, they sit down, you do anesthesia, and we scale. There's no OHI and plaque score, there's nothing like that, yes.
Can we even talk to the anesthesia?
Yes, generally you can. I will confirm with you beforehand, but generally we do try to do comps that day, yes.
Why won't a heavy bridge count?
A heavy bridge on the lower anteriors.
Yeah.
So, hang on, let me get to it. So 12 pieces of subcalculus, super doesn't count. 6 light pieces, 6 moderate pieces. You are choosing your exam. You have to have 6 moderate pieces. However, you could theoretically have 12. Okay? The maximum number of light pieces you can have is 6. But if you have 12 pieces of moderate and the other person has 6 pieces of light and 6 pieces of moderate, they have an easier exam than you. So you kind of want to make sure that you stick as closely to that as you can. 3 pieces has to be on molars. Maximum number of pieces is 4 on the mandibular anteriors. Why? Because everybody gets that big old bridge of calculus from canine to canine, like my little Irish friend, and you can get 12 clicks just right there. Well, that doesn't really mean anything because you kind of go with one end and you go with the other, and that whole bridge of calculus just kind of breaks off, and you're like, well, there's like 8 clicks right there. So what we want to see is that you can actually remove it subgingivally in the premolar and molar areas. So you can only have 4 clicks on the lower anteriors. Now on the maxillary anteriors, we don't care because the maxillary anteriors are more challenging and you don't get that big bridge. The lower anteriors, it's just so hard because everybody gets, you've all seen it, just the big old stretch of calculus that goes right across in the lower anterior linguals. And it's just kind of like, it doesn't really demonstrate competency to see you remove that only. So more calculus has to be on the back. It's great if it's there, you can have it, it's just that we're only going to count 4 of those clicks. And we're going to get into this more anyway. Day for the SRP comp is assigned. Passing it is mandatory in order to pass clinic this quarter. Competencies need to be completed by the 8th week of clinic. Work towards completing your winter competencies as well. Students have failed clinic before by not having all of their competencies, and they have been held back from graduation for not completing their competencies. Get them done and get them done early. You will not graduate if every single competency is not complete. That means if you're missing one FMX, you will not graduate. Okay? Do not get hung up because one para removable is not completed. It's crazy. The OHI comps, they're a hard one to get because they're multiple appointments, so please make sure that you're working on those. You should be getting at least one competency per clinic session. If you can't get it because it's a perio maintenance, try to finish early and go on a main clinic. Or go into oral surgery or wherever. Try to make use of your time. Do what you can to get one done a day.
Are we still only limited to injections and oral surgery?
As of right now, that's kind of what it's sounding like, but again, they're having kind of some change in personnel, so I'll get back to you on it, but as of right now, they're kind of limiting you to 2 at a time.
Wait, so I can do 2, then 2, then 2, then 2, then 2?
Well, I mean like on a patient. So if you go in and you like do 2 on a patient,
And then
like
come
that's
back
fine.
tomorrow
But
on
like,
patient and do
right,
2? I can...
you should be able to do that.
Oh, okay.
I'll talk to them and make sure, but yes, you should be able to get multiples.
Oh,
It's just that you can only have Dr. Whitecoat do it,
Yeah.
and he's not there all the
Thursday
time.
afternoon.
that's good to know.
So I will provide a competency update based on Barbara's record. All of you should be recording it. You shouldn't be waiting to get that from Barbara and be like, oh, like all of this is correct or all of this is wrong. You should kind of already know and just double check that Barbara has it right. Competencies submitted 2 weeks after their completion date are void. Make sure you're tracking your competencies on your own. CBCs, we're going to start talking about that. Identify a plan to move forward. We want to look at which board you're going to take. Most of the exam dates are at the end of June or beginning of July, unless you're doing credits, which is normally at the end of May. But again, you're not going to be approved to take your board exam until both CBCs are passed and completed. So please make sure you get those CBCs done by April. That's kind of our focus point right now. Now, really quickly, this is going to be your first assignment for your perio of the desert. So this is what they look like. So you'll review this, and then you're going to fill out that template, and you're going to submit it. We're kind of running out of time, so I just want to go kind of quick. Please review the course schedule. You'll see that each date that we have the perio case, the next week is when it's due. So everything in red is when it's due. The big things that I want you to be aware of is October 8th, I need you to bring your typodont with your gingiva in order to place the Arrestin. We're going to go ahead and on November 5th, your time change potentially is going to happen with National Board. Dr. Saul can't come in from 3 to 5, so I might be switching with National Board with our time slots on November 5th, okay? Your last 2 days, we're going to try in the last 2 weeks not have class.
Nice.
Ooh.
So we're going to try and get through it, okay? What else do I have to show you? This is your analysis form that you're going to complete. 9 questions, I'm sorry, not 10. You're going to fill this out and then submit it via Canvas. Yes.
How many, do you have these all posted? Like, can
They're all posted. They're all posted.
Interesting.
So, I'm going to just go on. Has everyone been on Canvas?
Yeah.
Don't lie, because I can see if you have.
Oh.
Some of you guys have not been on Canvas, and it hurts my
Ooh,
feelings.
call them out.
Just have the list up on the screen.
Why is it doing this? Is anyone else's password not working?
Oh,
Oh, mine is not working.
did you change the password?
Type in your old password.
No, it doesn't for whatever reason. Well, right.
She's speeding on here.
I need to accept. Okay, so when you go on to clinic seminar, you should be under modules. And you should see you have our syllabus, the course schedule, the introduction PowerPoint, you have a to-do list. Your to-do list is going to be a breakdown of everything that you need to complete in order to be able to like pass this course essentially. You need to do your patient screening document. So if you guys want just to do the draft on this, you can instead of the paper draft if you misplace it or whatever. The Perio of the Desert Case Analysis form is right here. So this is the template that you're going to reuse over and over. Quiz 1, that's what I will collect right now. Your all of your block memos are right here. So please make sure that you guys review them. We've run out of time, so I can't review them right now. But please make sure that you guys review them so that we can get that taken care of, yes.
Do we have clinic discussions as part of clinic
So
grade?
I can open them up if you guys would like, but I'm not going to mandate that you do discussions unless you have like specific questions. But it's not going to be part of your grade to do a clinic discussion.
Okay.
They won't let us comment on your announcement.
Okay, let me go up and see if I can do this. That's one thing, whenever I do announcements, guys, you have got to comment or say that you like it. See? Okay, I'm going to allow that you guys can comment. So please make sure that you go through, comment that you've read the announcements, okay?
You got a thing?
Last thing, I'm going to post this. There's a little CVA Cares event that's taking place on Friday and Saturday. So there's some technicalities to it. That's why clinic is shut down. The students can't do anything though. You can go if you want, and if you're interested in going, please email me today. It's on Friday. It starts at 5 o'clock in the morning. However, the students are not going to physically be able to provide care. So you're going to be asked to maybe sterilize, to walk patients to and from, but you're not actually going to be able to do any care, and you may not even be able to assist the faculty. So the problem is that we can give you like service learning points for it, but the next issue is the entire dental side has been requested to go, and there is only 100 spots open for volunteers. Well, the problem is the volunteers include everyone in the community, not just the dental students. So there is 100 spots total for people to sign up and do that. So my recommendation to you guys is if you're interested in going, please email me. But there is a good chance that the spots are already kind of filled. So don't get necessarily your heart set on it. They've been pushing the dental students to do it since like the early last quarter. So it's just kind of, we're going to be kind of stuck. But anyway, there is a little announcement here. Please click that or type in that you've read it. And then please send me back the information if you're interested in going. Okay, so send me an email or whatever. Please don't send me an email through Canvas. I don't check Canvas enough. I check my regular email and I check my phone. My phone number and my email are both available on the syllabus. Contact me that way if you really want to get a response from me. Yes. It should be, it's going to pop up at 3 o'clock. So give it just like 10 minutes and it'll pop up. Please make sure, yes, type it. From when? If you want to sign up for it? Oh, you've already signed up?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if you confirmed a spot, then you should be good at this point.
We just wondering because we thought we had clinic in the morning, so we only signed up from 3 to 7, but we're wondering if you come all day.
Oh yeah, if you want to go all day, you guys don't have clinic in the morning.
So
They
do we need
canceled
to
clinic.
sign up to come earlier? Do we need to
You may need to talk to them and get them to sign you up so that you can go all day. Yeah. Did everyone turn in their quiz? Okay, if you have any questions or anything, I know it's kind of crazy today. Next week hopefully will not be so crazy, but I am looking forward to working with everybody. And yeah, okay, bye.
So,
Yeah. So what my recommendation is going to be is to send an email, CC me and Ms. Marshall on it, and then send it to Dr. Kwan. Tell her that you talked to her and get all of us on the same page. I am, like with the IRB, I've just always done an IRB, but I know Ms. Marshall is like, you shouldn't have to do an IRB. So she's the one really pushing to not do it, and I know Dr. Kwan is pushing like everybody needs to do an IRB. So I'm kind of caught between like, she's in charge of the class, but like it's my boss, so like I don't really know who to go with. So just send everyone an email, everyone on it, and then just explain it as like this is what we're being told, and we just want to know what we're doing. Yeah, like this week. Yeah, so that's one of those things that I don't, but I'm pretty sure.
Because I don't want to go by myself. No, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like, my firm's pretty small too, unless we like split up into two groups. Oh yeah, unless Christian wants to join with us, if he doesn't, because he's a commercial man. I think that would be good. Yeah. I think he can. It's just not gonna fall within. Can you imagine? What time do we have to put it on? What time should I be here so we can all be able to? Like 7? Because we have to be there at 8. I honestly don't know. I should all be. You should all be there. That's what it says on the list. Okay, that's not my part that most tasks. Your only data that you're going to get is that thing, right? Yeah. And we're just going to analyze that, and then that's what we're going to go off of. What we're researching is the effectiveness of like our plan, you know, and that's what we're just going to do. We can do later than that, so after we do all the applications, because we're not really doing it, you know, so it kind of be okay, yeah. So she was okay.
What's that?
When I talked to Susan, she said plum.
What is it?
Okay, so then let's email Dr. Kwan and Miss Marshall and explain what they've done.
I need to stay moving.
Said, and then let's kind of go from there based on the book. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Awesome.
Okay.
So. Okay, so like that said like yep. Nope. Nope, that's totally fine. Just don't put your personal number on. If I put like a phone number on there, yeah, like yeah, if you want to do that, just don't give a personal phone number or like anything where it's like dating like you know what I mean? You're just kind of like, you don't know who you're talking to, you're handing it out to, so you just kind of don't want to like provide all this information and then you're like who are these people that are showing up? You know, most people are going to be totally fine, but it's why we want to give a phone number to Jeanette, so that if someone were to have it and they like stop saying it and then
yeah, no, I get it. I would put
yeah, put Jeanette's number and just explain on the card maybe like, please ask for Jeanette. Yeah, something like that.
Nothing CBC eligibility is not running any down.
Okay, I'll talk to you about it.
Hi. So, trying to eligibility. And then thinking about this, so I think so
And then is screening, it should be moderate.
It should be what? Moderate? But it has to be put into your class, or I'm sorry, they have to be put into your family.
Yeah, well, I feel like anxiety is like, definitely. If I can like put it back right now, right there. I have all right here.
So if that happens,
No, it's like, my anxiety is like.
Okay, lady.
My neck is like next to the rest of my body. So like, I'll get like I store all my tension right here. Like literally, I'll get like
Oh, really?
because like I am
Getting cramps, getting cramps.
Miss Lee, is there a spot on campus for this class? There is? Is it posted?
This one essentially, you guys kind of have a right. Fall next week. I'm gonna have a conference.
No, they just wanted to mention that. I mean, I was the one who thought of that.
So I think that's why the same weekend.
It's on the weekend.
I'm worried about
Yeah.
the first one report like it's not
All right.